For many retirees, travel is a priority, but how do you fund that travel? How do you sustain that lifestyle over the course of retirement if you want to do it for multiple years? Today, we're going to break it down with John and talk about how you actually can put a plan in place to accomplish that. Welcome in. Glad to have you on the channel once again. Ben George with John Stillman at Rosewood Wealth Management. John, traveled. I think it's a stereotypical answer for what are you going to do in retirement, but how often do you talk to clients that really do prioritize traveling?
At least half of our folks, that's a big part of what they want to do in retirement. Now, we do have a subset of people who have zero desire to leave their property. But for some people, yeah, travel is a big part of it for sure.
We have a question today that I want to run by you, and we'll kind of talk about a little bit. I teased it to start the video, but here it is. I have big travel plans for retirement. I want to do a couple of big international trips every year, and then a couple of smaller trips in the U.S. each year. So multiple trips in and out of the country every year. How can I make this sustainable long-term? Do you have clients to do this?
So the first thing we always have to establish when somebody says that they want to travel is, well, what does that mean? What does that look like to you? Because when some people say, I want to travel a lot, they mean what you've just described in this question. We want to hit up Egypt and Paris, and then next year we're doing Cambodia and a few weeks in Canada. Like, they've already got it all mapped out. Pretty high dollar trips. When other people say they want to travel a lot, what they mean is they're going to go to Emerald Isle a couple times a year. And my sister lives in Missouri, and so I'll probably go see her a couple of times. And that's their definition of we're going to travel a lot. Well, as you might imagine, Pine Knoll Shores and Jefferson City, Missouri, budgetarily speaking, are a little different from Cairo and Bangkok, right? So we have to establish what you mean when you say, I want to travel a lot. If it's more domestic and, we're going to be driving around with our travel trailer, which we got a lot of clients that do that, campers, trailers, RVs, doesn't actually cost them all that much to travel. They're going to park for free in the Cracker Barrel parking lot, and they just have to put gas in their rig, and that's a big part of their expenses. But on the other hand, yeah, if we're flying all over the world and staying in pretty nice hotels internationally, that's a pretty big bill. So first thing we have to do is clarify, what do you mean when you say you want to travel? Now, if it's somebody that has a good amount of assets, what I love to do, this is my very favorite way to do it, is to set up one account that's creating income that is your travel fund. That fund is also going to be your long-term care fund. Why? Because once we're in the nursing home, what do we no longer need?
Not travel.
A travel budget, right? So if we have an account that's creating income and we're never taking anything except the income that account creates, we're only taking the dividends and interest, we're never touching the principal, and we let that be our travel money, well, then down the road, all that principal is there and on the table to help pay for your care if you need it. Now, somebody has to have enough assets to be able to do that. But, let's say it was a situation where they had a few $100,000 that we could set aside as the travel money. And let's say it's producing $20,000 a year. Well, there might be some fluctuation in that income. Some years it might give them $17,000. Some years it might be $23,000. It'll be a fairly predictable amount, just not exact. Well, we can see what it generated through the year this year. And then exactly, all right, that's my travel budget for next year. So you don't set the budget for your travel until you know exactly what that travel account has produced for you. And then again, like I said, all that money is on the table down the road for your long-term care. If you don't necessarily have the assets to set it up that way, well, then we have to be conscious of, do we need to put a time limit on the travel? Like maybe you're going to travel pretty heavily for 5 years or 10 years, or maybe there's just a couple of big trips you want to do. Maybe it's not an every single year for the rest of your life kind of thing. You just have a couple of places you really want to go. And let's make sure that you get that funded. A lot of people mention like a safari I want to do an African safari. We've had a lot of clients in the last few years go to Iceland. Had 5 or 6 different people do Iceland trips. Just different things that have been on the bucket list for different people. So that's where we have to really drill down and figure out specifically what it is you want to do, what's going to be realistic for you. And then is it the kind of thing where we're going to have investments specifically set up for your travel? Or is it something you're just going to kind of save throughout the year from your regular income? Then when you have a trip, you'll have the money saved to put toward it. It's going to be different for everybody, but this is why a customized retirement plan is customized, right? Because it's just not going to be the same approach for everybody.
What happens in years like we're experiencing right now, John, where the market takes a huge dip? Does that change? Do you reevaluate the plans for that year? How do you approach that?
We don't want anybody set up with their retirement plan in such a way that a dip in the market affects what they're able to do or not do when it comes to lifestyle. Now, there might be people that would elect not to do some travel because they say, hey, I'd rather have that cash to reinvest in a down market. There are some people that are so savvy in that way that they would actually do that. But for the most part, no. If your lifestyle choices are dictated by what's happening in the market last month or last year, probably your plan is not set up very well. So we want to have you set up in such a way that you don't have to make those lifestyle decisions based on market returns.
All right. Good to know. Well, I know this is a big part of planning, right, John, is just getting this in order so that if you do have these goals, and your goal might be travel, it might be something completely different, but whatever it is, you got to have a plan for it so that you can do this comfortably and not worry about, hey, am I going to run out of money?
That's exactly right. I mean, travel is probably the most popular thing, like you said, but for other people, it could be something else specific that they want to have money for in retirement. Okay, let's figure out how much you need to be able to do whatever it is, the way that you want to do it, and then figure out for how many years can you do that before it becomes a problem from a retirement income budget standpoint. And, best case scenario, your plan works where you can keep doing that forever. But if we need to limit your travel to 5 years, that's something you would want to know before you retire and go see the world for 7 years. And then, I spent too much money. So the more we can tackle on the front end, the better. And then your expectations are set. And then once you have expectations, you're going to be pretty happy with whatever the outcome is. It's when you end up getting surprised that you end up being unhappy.
Yeah. Well, it all starts by going to meetwithjohn.com to schedule time with John at Rosewood Wealth Management. He's a chartered retirement planning counselor. Happy to sit down and talk with you about your goals, about how to get there and how to have a little confidence when you get into retirement, which is the name of the game. So again, if you have any questions, start with meetwithjohn.com, but also please subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done that as well, we'd appreciate that support. All right, John, appreciate it as always. Talk to you again soon. Have a good week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Carolina Wealth Stewards doing business as Rosewood Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor in the state of North Carolina. The material presented is intended to be general information and should not be construed by any consumer as the rendering of personalized investment advice.